Imagine being born with the kind of muscles that most adults can't even achieve after years in the gym. That was the reality for a baby boy named Liam Hoekstra. From the moment he came into the world, doctors were stunned. By 6 months old, Liam could perform a full pull-up. At 8 months, he was doing gymnastics-level maneuvers without breaking a sweat. The reason? A super rare condition known as myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy. Myostatin is a protein that limits muscle growth. But in Liam's case, his body barely produced any. That meant his muscles grew rapidly, naturally, and without the need for training. It wasn't just about strength, though. He also had incredibly low body fat and rapid recovery time. Liam became a medical mystery and media sensation, with people calling him the real-life baby Hulk. Scientists studied his case closely, hoping it could one day help people with muscle-wasting diseases. But here's the wild part. Liam didn't even want to be a bodybuilder. He just wanted to play sports like a normal kid. Still, his body was anything but normal. And he's not the only person whose biology stunned scientists.
The body that defied science. Meet Paul Dillett, a man whose sheer size made even the biggest bodybuilders look small. Standing at 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighing over 300 pounds in competition shape, Paul earned the nickname Freakenstein. But his rise wasn't just about training hard. His muscle growth was so extreme, some suspected a biological anomaly. Unlike others, Paul could gain massive size with minimal fat. His body responded to resistance like it was built to grow. Medical professionals speculated he had unusually low levels of myostatin, the same condition seen in rare genetic cases, but Paul never confirmed it. On stage, he looked almost animated, veins popping, muscles exploding out of his skin, with proportions that didn't seem human. At one point, he cramped so hard on stage that he was temporarily paralyzed and had to be carried off. That moment went viral before viral was even a thing. Despite the risk, Paul kept pushing. He wasn't just a competitor, he was a living muscle mutation. And yet, nature still had more tricks up its sleeve, including one moment where raw, unbelievable strength would shock the world. The man who lifted a car. In a quiet neighborhood in Tucson, Arizona, a regular guy named Tom Boyle did something no one could believe. He lifted a car off a trapped man. It happened in 2006. A cyclist had been hit by a Camaro and was pinned underneath. Without hesitation, Tom, who was around 270 pounds and lifted weights recreationally, ran over, squatted down, and deadlifted the car off the man's body. It wasn't adrenaline. It was pure, terrifying strength. Eyewitnesses stood frozen. No lifting belts, no chalk, just raw, desperate power. Scientists call it hysterical strength, a phenomenon where the human body overrides its safety limits during moments of extreme stress. Usually it's temporary and damages muscles or tendons. But Tom walked away fine. What makes this story even more wild is that Tom never considered himself elite or extraordinary. He was just a guy who worked out. Yet, in one moment, he became a real-life superhero. That wasn't the only time people have risked their lives chasing extreme muscle. Sometimes the results aren't heroic, they're horrifying. The bodybuilder turned to stone. Valdir Segato wanted to be huge, but instead of lifting weights, he took a shortcut, injecting synthol oil directly into his muscles. It worked. At first, his biceps blew up to over 23 inches, his chest ballooned unnaturally, and photos of his freakish body went viral. People called him the Brazilian Hulk, but what looked like muscle was really a dangerous illusion. Synthol doesn't make you stronger. It just inflates the muscle with oil. Over time, Valdir's arms hardened, turning stiff and rock-like. Doctors warned him repeatedly that he could suffer nerve damage, infections, or even amputations, but he didn't stop. He was addicted to the size, to the attention. Tragically, in 2022, Valdir passed away from complications likely linked to his extreme use of synthol. His story is a chilling reminder of what happens when obsession goes too far. Real strength can't be faked, and some transformations are so shocking because they're 100% natural. The skinny kid. Mutated Casey Butt was just your average skinny kid in high school. Small frame, no muscles, no strength, just another quiet face in the crowd. But one day, he decided to change everything. Without fancy supplements or steroids, Casey went deep into natural bodybuilding, pushing his body to its absolute limits. Scientifically, he studied kinesiology, tracked his nutrition meticulously, and trained with insane discipline. Over several years,
His transformation became something people thought was impossible for a natural athlete. His physique looked unreal. Massive shoulders, detailed abs, powerful legs, but he passed every drug test he was given. More impressively, he published his journey and helped thousands of others transform naturally. Skeptics still claimed it was fake, but it wasn't. Casey's story proved that not all Hulk-like bodies come from labs or genetics. Sometimes it's just pure dedication. Still, some people are born with a physique so extreme, it shocks doctors from the very first glance. The man with superhuman muscles. Richard Sandrak, better known as Little Hercules, stunned the world in the early 2000s when videos of his 8-pack abs and bulging biceps went viral. At just 6 years old, Richard was bench pressing over 180 pounds and performing full splits like a martial artist. He wasn't just fit, he was jacked. His physique looked like it belonged on a 25-year-old professional athlete. Under the guidance of his father, a strict trainer, Richard followed a brutal workout and diet regimen from the time he could walk. His daily training included hundreds of push-ups, hours of cardio, and high-rep weightlifting. But doctors were shocked, not just by his appearance, but by the fact that his muscle growth was completely real. No steroids, no drugs, just raw discipline and extreme routine. Later in life, Richard stepped away from fitness, even becoming a Hollywood stuntman. But his story left people debating, was this a miracle of muscle or a case of childhood pushed too far? Still, not all real-life Hulks are born or built. Some break records that seem to rewrite what the human body can even do. The woman with Hulk strength. Meet Becca Swanson, the strongest woman ever recorded. Standing 6 feet tall and weighing nearly 300 pounds of solid muscle, Becca isn't just strong for a woman, she's strong, period. Her best lifts include a 700-pound squat, a 500-pound bench press, and a 675-pound deadlift. Those aren't just impressive, they're stronger than most elite male powerlifters. With a background in engineering and a passion for competition, Becca shattered gender norms by entering strongman events dominated by men and winning. Her physique was so massive and muscular that she was often mistaken for a bodybuilder, but her focus was always on raw power. What makes her story so compelling is that her transformation wasn't genetic. It was built through sheer determination, years of grinding, and a willingness to outwork everyone. She's proof that Hulk-like strength doesn't care about gender, but some people don't need years of training to stand out. One man was so naturally massive, fans thought he wasn't even real. The giant from Iran, Sajjad Gharibi, known across the internet as the Persian Hercules, first went viral for his unbelievable size. Weighing over 400 pounds with massive arms and a barrel-like chest, Sajjad looked more like a Marvel character than a real person. Photos of him gripping tiny objects or standing next to average people made him look like a living comic book figure. But what drew attention wasn't just his size, it was how young he was. In his 20s, Sajjad had already built a physique that looked digitally altered. But it wasn't. Despite his intimidating build, Sajjad was known to be soft-spoken and even shy. Eventually, he tried to channel his internet fame into a combat sports career, entering the world of MMA. The results were disappointing. In the ring, his size didn't translate into performance, but the image of him, hulking, still, quiet, burned itself into internet culture. He became a symbol of physical extremes, both inspiring and controversial. Still, not every Hulk is famous. Some live in silence, hidden giants forged by labor, not fame. The Silent Beast. Tucked away in the forests of Eastern Europe lived Marius, a farmer who barely spoke a word but had the strength of 10 men. His days were spent hauling timber, lifting rocks, and working the land with nothing but his hands and brute force. Locals whispered stories, how he once carried a refrigerator on his back for half a mile or lifted a tractor wheel over his head. No gym, no trainer, just years of hard labor. When a traveling strongman show came to town, they invited him on stage as a joke. But once Marius stepped up, the joke ended. He outlifted every trained athlete there. His hands were like stone, and his back looked carved out of wood. He didn't speak English, didn't care about fame, and disappeared right after the event, back to his simple life. To this day, no one knows how strong he really was, because he never competed again. But he left behind stories of a true, natural giant. And speaking of unlikely places to find Hulks, one of the strongest bodies ever built came from inside prison walls. The Prison Hulk. C.T. Fletcher was no ordinary inmate. During his time behind bars, he transformed his body using nothing but push-ups, sit-ups, and pure rage. With no access to weights, Fletcher turned to high-volume calisthenics, thousands of reps per day, every single day. His chest grew so thick it looked armored. His arms ballooned past 22 inches. All built in a cell. But what made CT legendary wasn't just his physique, it was his mindset. He called it commanding your muscles to grow.
After prison, he went on to become a 6-time world champion in powerlifting, benching over 650 pounds. He inspired millions with his raw, no-excuse approach to training, famously shouting, "It's still your Mother King set." His rise from prison-built strength to global influence proved that you don't need a fancy gym or ideal conditions to become a real-life Hulk. And yet, not all giants are forged by steel. Some are carved by dirt, sweat and fields. The farmer built like a tank. In the heart of Kentucky, a farmer named Jake McGraw built one of the most powerful bodies you'd ever see without stepping foot in a gym. His daily routine: carrying hay bales, fixing tractors, wrestling livestock, and chopping firewood. Over the years, Jake's muscles grew thick, dense, and brutally functional. He never trained for aesthetics. He trained by living. Locals said Jake could lift a full-grown sheep over his shoulders like it was nothing. His hands were so callous they could snap twine like thread. What made him different from bodybuilders was the durability of his strength. He wasn't just strong for reps, he was strong for hours. Visiting athletes who came to his farm tried to keep up with him and couldn't last a single day. Jake didn't track macros or take supplements. His diet was home-cooked meals and gallons of milk. No selfies, no fame, just raw, farm-forged power. And while Jake lived in quiet strength, one man stepped onto the world stage and proved his muscle wasn't just real, it was historic. The world's strongest grandfather. At 72, Cy Perlis broke a world bench press record by lifting over 205 pounds, proving that age is just a number when strength is your lifestyle. Cy didn't even start weightlifting until he was 60. Before that, he had lived a pretty average life, never showing signs of superhuman strength. But once he picked up the iron, something clicked. His body responded like it had been waiting his entire life to grow. Over the next decade, Cy trained with laser focus. He ate clean, slept well, and followed a strict but smart program tailored to his age. But here's the shocker. He didn't just become fit for his age group. He became an elite-level lifter in open categories. Doctors were amazed at his bone density, tendon strength, and muscle retention. At an age when most men lose muscle, Cy was gaining it. When asked what his secret was, he simply said, "I don't believe in quitting." And while Cy inspired with longevity, one last Hulk would leave his mark in the most official way possible, etched into the record books. The Guinness record breaker. Greg Valentino wasn't the biggest man alive, but his arms were. At their peak, they measured over 28 inches around, earning him a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records. Known as the man with the world's biggest biceps, Greg was impossible to ignore. His arms looked cartoonishly oversized, even compared to professional bodybuilders. But Greg's journey was anything but smooth. He admitted to experimenting with anabolic steroids and pushing his body beyond its natural limits. At one point, an infection from repeated injections nearly cost him his life. But what kept people talking wasn't just his size, it was his openness. He became a controversial figure in the fitness world, known for saying what others wouldn't. Love him or hate him, he embodied the extreme side of muscle culture. Whether through genetics, training, obsession, or records, these 13 real-life Hulks each proved one thing. When it comes to the human body, the limits are far beyond what most people ever imagine.